A couple months ago, I recorded a dream that I had about coming destruction and darkness and a plot of just global darkness. So last night I had another dream. It was one of those dreams. Actually, it was early this morning. I woke up around 6 a.m. and I stared in shock and terror at what I saw in my dream. So I believe it was a warning that the Lord was showing me of something that was going to come to the world. And I'm just going to try to briefly share it. So what I saw was 3 cities, which represented many cities, but I saw 3 specific cities that were being attacked or destroyed. And the first city, I don't know what it was. The second city was somewhere in California, and the third city was in Texas. But I saw them all being destroyed by major weather patterns or natural, I won't say they're natural, but disasters that have to do with weather. So the first city, and I'll just explain. So I'm sitting in a meeting in my office, and we're talking about real estate. And I look at the computer, and it was almost like having one of those 9/11 moments where you remember exactly where you were when you saw the TV and you see the news playing out the story. So that's how it was. I was sitting in a meeting in my office talking about real estate, and then I'm looking at my computer screen, and I turn the computer around to the person I'm meeting with, and I'm saying, "Did you see what happened? Did you see?" And I turn the computer around. As I'm looking at the computer, I'm looking at a city, like a news story of a city. I want to say somewhere in the Midwest or somewhere in the north of the United States that was totally covered in water. And the city was lifeless. There was no one. There was no motion, no movement, no life, no businesses open. We were panning the sky looking at a city that was totally shut down. It looked like forever because of this natural disaster. It looked like about 3 feet of water that was covering the whole city. And immediately I'm now in the city looking from like God's perspective down on the city, like an aerial view. I can see every end of the city, the downtown, all the way to the housing districts all around it are all totally under sea level. And then I zoom down to the ground level as if I'm looking down on the ground, and I see that it's not water, it's actually a mixture of gravel, sand, and water. So it looks like a very loose soil. But I see the rocks, and it's a light brown color rock like gravel mixed with the color of sand like at the beach, and it's wet. And that's what's covering the whole city. So it's almost like the city has been eroded, and all of the streets, the arteries of the city are totally covered in this soil type substance that looks almost like water from high up, but when you get close to it, it was actually rocks and sand and water. And it's beginning to cement over the city, which means it's not going to flow out like when a city floods and then in a week, 2 weeks, everything goes back to normal. The city was lifeless. Like, it was not going to go away. In fact, the city was now sinking basically, and the actual ground level was maybe 3 feet below what it originally was. So nothing would ever be able to operate again because the ground level was now no longer what it previously was. All the streets will forever remain covered. That's what it appeared to be. And I went in and out of the vision like I'm there present, hovering over the ground, then I'm high up in the sky looking at the whole city, and then I'm in my computer looking at it through the computer screen, watching the news play it. As soon as I get done seeing that city, I'm now in California. Now there's no signs to say I'm in California, but in the dream I believe I'm in California, and I'm flying over California as if I'm in a helicopter. I'm at that height over the city, panning slowly over the city like I'm in a news helicopter, capturing the footage. And in California, what was happening was there was mud. The whole city was covered in a sea of mud. And when I say a sea of mud, just imagine flowing mud, like how water flows, but it's mud, thick mud. All and it's the appearance as if an earthquake has destroyed the entire city. Now, there was nothing that said an earthquake happened, but I'm looking at the buildings, high rises, downtown high structures are all crumbled over, sitting sideways. The streets, bridges are broken in half, and there's sinkholes I want to say at least half a mile deep, hundreds of them everywhere my eyes could see. Buildings have fallen into sinkholes, houses, cars, mud. But this city is not lifeless. So as I hover over this city, I hear the screams of people as it's actively happening, where people are trying to climb out of the holes. And I see millions of people all at the same time, all fighting for their lives. The squeals and the screams of people covered in mud. I can't see their faces. I just see bodies in mud, climbing and clawing, holding on to whatever they can to try to climb out of these sinkholes and these craters. And at one point, imagine I'm in a helicopter. I'm not, but in the dream, it's as if I'm in a helicopter hovering over, looking down into the sinkholes, seeing how deep they are. And in the dream, I feel terror at what I'm being shown. I'm seeing people dying in masses. I'm seeing the people at the bottom of the sinkhole with buildings and all other debris falling down into the sinkhole. I'm seeing a particular man swimming through the mud, holding onto a bridge, trying to claw his way to the top of the broken bridge, while I'm seeing the rest of the people that there's no way they will be able to get out of it. And then I began to pan throughout the city and see all sorts of destruction of that nature, knowing that this city is being destroyed by mud and earthquakes. And at that moment, I'm now back in my office with my feet on the ground, and I look over to the person I was meeting with, and I realize that this is happening all over the world, city after city after city. And I say to myself in my heart, we're next. And then I grab the person's hand, and it's no longer business. We go into prayer, and I am crying out to the Lord, Lord, please do not let destruction come to the city of Dallas. I rebuke whatever attack is about to hit Dallas. And as I'm praying, instantly I'm up in the sky inside of a plane or a helicopter. And I'm in mid-prayer, but now I'm praying in the sky. And I'm looking down over the city, and I'm praying, Lord, whatever is about to hit this city, don't let it happen. And then I remember as I pray, I'm asking, God, is this you destroying the world? Or is this you allowing these things to happen? Or is this the devil and I can ask you to save us? And I remember stopping to pray because I'm confused, because I know that this level of disaster could not happen if it was not allowed by God. But then I'm also in sheer terror asking God, begging, please don't destroy the world. Like, don't let this attack happen. Why is this happening? And so I'm halfway between praying in faith and rebuking the wind and the weather, and the other half I'm pleading for our lives because I believe that we're going to be next. So now I believe I'm in a helicopter at this point, and I'm hearing the news audio while I'm standing in the helicopter, and it's talking about the destruction and how all the cities that are being destroyed. And I'm in the helicopter looking down over Dallas, praying, God, please don't destroy Dallas, please, please. And I'm starting to beg. And at this moment, a high wind begins to blow. When the high wind begins to blow, the helicopter, I'm standing. I'm not sitting in the helicopter. I'm standing, almost like I'm in a military helicopter. And I fly into the left wall of the helicopter, and the helicopter starts to slam, like the wind begins to blow it back like it's pushing it to the ground, and then it begins to toss back and forth like we're in the middle of a hurricane or a tornado. and the helicopter is literally being tossed like a leaf in the wind, and I'm being tossed around the helicopter, and I'm trying to maintain my faith while also realizing that we're about to hit the ground. And I look out the window and I see a commercial airline, like a commercial airplane, also being tossed in the wind, and this is full of passengers. And I'm praying because I know that every plane in the sky is about to fall out the sky at the same time, because these destructive winds just hit just like that. And I'm aware that it's a pattern. It's happening city after city after city after city. And it felt like, I want to say, one of those end of the world movies where you just see the world being destroyed all at once. But I knew it wasn't at the end of the world. It was something that had to do with weather and natural. I want to say natural, but I believe that weather can be controlled in other ways. That there can be things that manufacture weather patterns. But I don't know if it was a natural source, but I know that it had to do with destruction by weather or natural disasters. So what I saw was flood, erosion, cities sinking under sea level. I saw mudslides, sinkholes, earthquakes. Then I saw what was a hurricane or tornado type wind. And then I woke up, and it's dark in my bed, and I wake up and my eyes are just in terror, and I'm shaking, and I'm like, it was so real. It was like it was happening right before my eyes, but I was seeing it from God's perspective, looking down on the world. I was seeing it from like a helicopter view of the view that I was seeing from looking down was like being from like an airplane or helicopter view. So I was seeing the whole city go through it at once. I was seeing it from being low to the ground, like I'm hovering like a helicopter trying to capture footage of a city. I was seeing it from ground level, and I was seeing it on the news all at the same time, which made me believe that it was a warning of something to come. So I woke up praying. First I said, let me write this down. Then I just began to pray, God, do not destroy the world, or do not allow these weather events to destroy the world. I don't know if this is you. I don't know what you're showing me. I don't understand it. I don't know why you showed me 3 cities, but they were representative, because in the dream I knew it was happening all around the world. But I saw 3 cities in the United States that it happened to. And I'm just asking you all, if you get this, heed my voice, please pray for God to spare the cities of the world from this destruction, from more natural disasters than we've already seen. Now, I made a video, or I recorded a post last year of a flood that was coming to New York that had to do with Louisiana, because I was standing in New York with an umbrella, and on the umbrella it said Louisiana. And then I looked up at the sky, and a raindrop fell from heaven and hit me right on my forehead. So I made a warning post that there was going to be a flood that came to New York in the New Jersey area that was linked to Louisiana. And I saw this in like spring, maybe April, I think it was around March or April 2020. And I made a video about it. I believe I put it on my YouTube. I also had a second dream where I saw the Northeast, like New Jersey, New York, covered in water, and everyone was fleeing to higher ground. And there was multiple natural disasters that happened at the same time. There was a hurricane and a flood, and I believe a tornado, that all happened at the same time. And as you know, Hurricane Ida just hit, and it was all of those things that went from Louisiana to the Northeast. Now, I asked God when I saw that happen, why did you show me this a year in advance? Because if you had showed me a week in advance, I could have made a post. Perhaps somebody would have seen it. They could have gotten their car, drove away. It would have been important to have 1 week's notice of a storm. But showing me a year in advance, it's like, what is that gonna do? It's not gonna save anybody. It's not gonna spare anybody. You're just gonna know, like, hey, at some point in the future, there's going to be a flood. So the only thing you could do is buy flood insurance. And I remember in my video, I encourage people, buy flood insurance. If you're in New York or New Jersey, buy flood insurance. I even called my friend who had just bought a house in New Jersey, and I told her, buy flood insurance. And in Dallas, I bought flood insurance over our rental property because the dream was that real a year ago. I was like, it's gonna flood, and I don't know, it's gonna be somewhere it's gonna move from here and go there. It's gonna hit places that don't typically flood in a 100-year floodplain, outside of a 100-year floodplain. And I bought flood insurance, and I remember it was like almost $3,000. It wasn't just like, I kind of think it's gonna flood. It was like, it's gonna flood, and I need to be prepared. Well, it didn't flood in Dallas, but I called my friend as she was closing on her house in New Jersey, and I said, you need to buy flood insurance. Long story short, I'm asking God, why are you showing me? What are you showing me? Why are you showing me this? What can I do to prevent these totally destructive, life-ending events where masses of people die? What can I do to prevent this from happening? Why are you showing me this? Why? So I just prayed. I'm praying now. I'm asking you to pray. I don't know why God showed me this, but I pray that this does not occur. I pray that these cities are not covered. I pray that life doesn't end for millions of people. I pray that planes don't fall out the sky. I pray that California doesn't have these mudslides and sinkholes, and people without a moment's notice are falling into craters in the ground. Bridges are breaking. Buildings are toppling. This is the type of destruction that you don't come back from. It's not like we rebuild a year later and it's like this city is gone forever. It was that level of destruction. I pray these things don't happen, and I'm recording this simply because I just want to put this out here, because why would God show me? Why would he allow me to see these things in a dream and a vision if I was the only person that was supposed to know and just keeping it to myself? So I'm saying this as a warning that this fits in line with the vision I had of the coming darkness and destruction. And then we all need to get our hearts right. Like, you don't know the day or the hour. In a moment's notice, you can be on a plane and a high wind can come. In a moment's notice, an earthquake. In a moment's notice, a tornado. In a moment's notice, a flood. In a moment's notice, the house that you had can never be returned to. The building that you worked in can never open again. A city, we've seen it. Buildings covered in water. Houses, people being swept away. We've seen it. Now is the time. Now is the time. It's not tomorrow. It's not next year. Now is the time to return to the Lord. Now is the time to make peace with God. Now is the time to be like, forget all this other stuff. Forget what I want to do, what I want to live, what I want, what I need. Forget all of that. Now is the time to repent. Now is the time to turn back to the Lord. Now is the time to find salvation. Salvation is not for heaven. Salvation is for earth. Salvation is for now. That's what I believe that I'm supposed to be recording this video for. I'm not recording this out of fear. Like, oh my God, I'm saved. I'm good. I was the one that the Lord was showing in the dream. I was the one on the helicopter. Even as the helicopter was almost being slammed to the ground, I was still standing in faith in the helicopter. I still was holding on to my faith. I won't say I wasn't afraid, but in the dream, the Lord was showing me, even in the destruction, I had my feet on the ground. I had my feet planted in faith, praying for others. I'm saying, I know this dream isn't for me. This dream is for others. This dream is a warning saying, get yourself ready. Get your household ready. Get the nation ready. It's time for the nation to repent. It's time for the nation to turn back to God, Jesus Christ. It's time for the things that are hidden to come forth, for people's eyes to be open. It's time for people to claim Jesus as their Savior. It's time for people to make a decision. It's time for people to appreciate and value this very precious life that we each have been given. And it's time for us to wake up. Like the world, the end times, we're living in them. When you read the Bible, and I believe it's Matthew 24 or 25, and Jesus describes the end times. There'll be rumors of war. There will be natural disasters, earthquakes. There'll be these world events of they're playing out in front of our eyes. And what I just saw was that level. I'll go and read it and I'll bring it back to say what I just described is what's described as the end time labor pains. So just heed my voice, guys. Thank you for listening. God bless you. I thank the Lord for this moment that I'm alive. I thank the Lord for this moment that you're alive. I thank the Lord for this moment of sunny days and peace. I pray that it'll always be this way, but something in my heart is telling me that it won't. Love your family. Forgive anybody you need to forgive. Kiss your kids. Kiss your parents. Love people. While we're in a state of peace, love people. God bless you all.